Hey, countdown to the Geekcast is Retro Ray here. We're back again to interview a comic creator, comic inker, comic writer. His list is long. He's worked on video games, he's written for co-creation on comics. I mean, Jimmy Palmiotti is phenomenal in his work. He's worked on Jonah Hex, he's worked on Harley Quinn, he's worked on The Pro. He's currently going to be working on the Spawn Gunslinger, the Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger. That's coming out in January. So we're gonna get him in the room and talk about what fans can expect from the comic, and kind of is it gonna be mini series, the kind of little stories here and there. But anyway, we're gonna get him in the room and talk about also his Kickstarter he's working on, the Deadly Trio Doomsayers. We're gonna talk about that as well. All right, guys, let's get him in the room.
What is happening, Ray?
What's going on, sir? How's it going?
I just noticed that both titles have the word deadly in it.
Yes.
One's a deadly trio and one's a deadly. I guess it's a very deadly month for me, December.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've been pretty busy, not counting cons, and then you're also gonna be doing a cruise as well, is what I've heard.
Yeah. It's funny. I kind of backed away from the mainstream stuff, for a little bit. COVID kind of did that for me, and then I was at New York Comic Con, and I had Todd's guys kind of approach me at the con, and they said, "Would you be interested in writing a Western for Todd?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I've been a fan of Todd's forever. I mean, I've known him forever, but I've been a fan of his forever. Spawn, I love Spawn." And they said, "Yeah, it would be like, it'd be like the Deadly." The title at the time was just another Gunslinger. They didn't have a title yet. And I had a meeting with Todd, and Todd's like, "Hey, kid, meanwhile, I think we're the same age, by the way." And he goes, "Hey, kid, how do you feel about doing a monthly book?" And I said, "Well, I've done a couple of monthlies before." And he's like, "Yeah, I see over 100 issues of Jonah Hex." I said, "Yeah, that's true, and Harley Quinn and a lot of stuff." And he said, so he said, "All right, you got some reading to do." And I read all the Gunslinger books, Plus, I read the first appearances in Spawn, because that's where it started, in a story in Spawn. And I said, "Okay, I got the character. He's in present day, and he's a Western guy." And he goes, "Okay, I need you to do the book before he becomes this guy, and before he gets shoved into the future, which is present day." He says, "I need you to do him like in the 1800s, after the Civil War, and tell me the
Oh,
story, and do the story of the gunslinger in the past, when he was just became the gunslinger, when he was just trying to figure out who he was. His powers were not very strong, and he was trying to figure out the world around him." And he said, Todd goes, "Listen," I goes, "I don't want 5 issues. I don't want 10." He goes, "This is an ongoing book." He says, "So you're going to be doing it monthly for as long as I can wrangle you to do it." And I said, "Well, I said, I love the idea of doing an ongoing book, because I can create this world around it." And we worked on the Bible for the character, because Todd had a lot, it's all in Todd's head, right? He's got that giant universe going on in his head. So we kind of worked out a Bible, and we got working on it. And it's like right now I'm working on issue 10, right? And number 1 comes out December 18th. I'm sorry,
wow.
December 18th. But I'm already on towards the end of the year, next year, because Todd does not like to deliver a book that's late, ever,
Wow.
right? So he starts everybody early. And yeah, man. So that's how the Deadly Tales of Gunslinger. It's called, the full title is Deadly Tales of Gunslinger Spawn, number 1, and the first issue is $3.99, which is $1 more usual than Todd's books.
Yeah.
But the book has an extra, I think, 14 or 15 pages in it. So
Oh, wow.
it's 30 something pages. It's a thick book. So you'll, for $1 more, it's still cheaper than any Marvel and DC comic with just 20 pages in it. You know,
Yeah.
and I remember Todd telling me one time. I said, "Why are your books so cheap and the other companies are so expensive?" And he says, he goes, "I don't." He goes, "I can make them cheaper because I'm not probably." I'm trying to keep it easy for people to buy, and I don't want to. I don't not that greedy, you know. And he says, plus he doesn't have a giant corporation.
Yeah,
Doesn't have, you know what I mean?
true.
Which I love about him because he's like the Arizona iced tea of comics, you know. Uh, only people that drink that understand that those big cans are still 99 cents.
Yeah.
You know, I heard that guy say it once. He said, he goes, I make enough money. My work is are very paid very well. I have enough money. He goes, why should I raise the price of my product when everybody's doing okay on it? And he hasn't, you know, that Arizona 99 cent Arizona iced tea cans are like another like 6 ounces bigger than a Coke, right? They're like
Yeah.
tall, they're tall boys. And so anyway, I'm doing that. That's monthly, and yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm working with the artist Patrick Reynolds on
Wow.
it, who's just terrific. He just did a couple of Batman issues. He got that out of his system, so I was happy. Got that out of his system, and he's been working on a series, and the way it's set up, once in a while we have a guest artist, and we have some already a guest artist working on a two-parter that I can't say who it is, but it's somebody I've worked with before, and it's amazing. But all right, Ray, I'm coming up. I'm coming up for air. Go ahead, ask me.
Who haven't you worked with, sir? You've
Um,
worked with everybody. Chad Harden. You worked with Guinness. You've worked with. I mean, you worked with Kevin Smith. I mean, I
I,
can
I
just
think
go on
that
and on.
I think the theory is if you live long enough, right, and you don't piss people off, you know, I'm a really I like working with other people. I don't have an ego, you know, so I don't fight over stupid things.
Yeah.
Um, I like co-writing, so I like writing with other people too because it's fun. I just I want to have fun. I think if I'm having fun doing the work, then it's going to come across in the book. And I think it's clear. I mean, in books like Power Girl, when I work with Justin and Jonah Hex with Justin and Gray, or Buddy Scalera on Deadpool, or even my wife Amanda working on Harley, like we would try to have fun all the time while we were doing the books. And I think it comes across in the book. Like I can tell when I'm reading a comic and there's no life to it. They're just getting the script in to pay a bill, and you know, and I have you know, a thing about that because I feel like I only have a certain amount of time on the planet, and I don't want to waste my time on stuff that people aren't passionate about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People are passionate about. I mean, you've worked on. I'm gonna pull. I'm just gonna pull a couple of pages up
Sure.
covers here. Of course, Harley Quinn, and this is where I met Chad, and I got introduced to meet you and Amanda, and this book started it off in general. I mean, Harley Quinn was just a little cameo character, and you guys helped bring her to life, and now we've got the TV show. I- You know, did you
Yeah, I mean,
guys think?
chat. No, I know what you're gonna ask. We think it ever become that big? Hell no, hell no. They gave us that book. I remember they gave us that book, and they said it was Dan DiDio that said to me, "It'll probably get canceled within 6 or 8 issues, so do whatever you want." And and we got lucky enough to get Chad to draw the inside of the book, and you know, and Chad wasn't. You know, I knew his work, but a lot of people didn't know his work back then.
Yeah,
And Chad just killed it on it. I mean, whatever sense of humor we had, this guy went in and made it 100 times better, much funnier, and visually, like every comic panel's got some crazy stuff going on it. And so I like to say the three of us really like killed it on that book because we were having so much fun. And you know, we worked Chad like a dog. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you know, there was one point he was doing 2 books a month with us, but nobody expected it to land that big, and of course, nobody expected a Suicide Squad movie, and then Margot Robbie, and all this stuff started happening. I remember one year the costume that Amanda and Chad worked on was the #1 Halloween costume in the United States, and I was like, okay, this is crazy now. And I think we did me, Chad, and Amanda did a San Diego where we took a picture with like 300 Harley Quinn cosplayers around us in one shot. You know,
nice.
and that like it was pretty insane time. A lot of fun. You know, we got to go to movie premieres. Chad got to, you know, me, Amanda, and Chad and his wife went over to London, and we, hung
Yeah,
out at Marco Robbie's party. It was just crazy. The whole thing was just, you know, Uh, it was a lot to take in, but at the end of the day, we had to get back to work, and it was over 100 issues of that book. And I think right before COVID, we kind of burned out, and said we need a break. But we had a pretty good run. I mean, it was almost 3.5 omnibuses worth of work,
Wow.
and that's quite impressive. I think on 100 different levels, because you don't really see the same team on a book that long, you
No,
know.
you don't.
And I also think that's what's lacking in comics these days, is because every time they relaunch a series, they start with an artist and writer, and then all of a sudden the artist is changing. All of a sudden there's a different writer, and you know, um, I, I'm the guy that I want my team. I want my Byrne, I want my John Byrne and Chris Claremont. You know, 4 years, 5 years worth of work. I want that. That'll forever stay on my shelf. Continuity and characters, I think, is so underrated and so important. But we got lucky with Chad. That's a guy that can hit a deadline smiling. Um, Chad. He complains once in a while, but that's sort of like the kettle releasing steam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never get upset at it. He just has to get the steam out, and then he's back to work again. So just a great guy.
Well, I mean, you and Amanda make a great team as well. And that's what you're talking about, the co-writing part of it too.
Yeah,
When you can feed off each other and give ideas and like, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? And that's where and the passion also shows in the comic, like you were mentioning. When you have that passion and
yeah,
the fans can see it in the writing and see it in the artwork. I mean, this is just the artwork, but when you find that right artist that's
yeah.
also kind of in your head and can bring it to life on paper, that's the best part about it.
I, I,
It
I've always said live and die by your artist. Meaning, if I'm writing a book and the art isn't great, my writing's not going to come off great, no matter how good it is, right?
yeah,
Um, so you get judged by that, and you'll notice the bigger names in comics, like the Scott Snyders and the kind of big name guys always work with the same 3 or 4 artists. Azarello always works with Risa because they don't want to let them go. These artists make those guys look so brilliant,
yeah.
and you can put other artists on them, and it's just not there. So you learn early on when you're a writer, you want to make your artist really happy, because he's going to make or break your book sometimes. And comic books are visual media, right? So we go in, if we don't like the way it looks, we probably don't read it. You know?
Nope. As a collector myself and a reader, that is true. I mean, they could sell you on the cover, but once you flip that interior and it doesn't match almost close to that cover, you
Yeah,
lose interest in the story. Don't get me wrong, the story may be great, like you mentioned, but if it
yeah,
doesn't match and bring it to life, you lose interest, and
yeah. No,
then you just
I've
move
seen
on to the
I've seen
next one.
Alan Moore stories where I didn't like the art, so I didn't read it. I just that's just me. I just don't have the patience for stuff that doesn't work. I'm picky, and also I understand how much a dollar is. So when I buy
Yeah,
comics, I realize that I got to work for that money really hard. So I'm gonna be a little pickier when I'm buying stuff.
yeah, and I mean, getting back to what else you've worked on. I mean, you walked or worked on Miss Marvel, iconic characters that now that we see on the big screen, and then of course Echo. You worked
Yeah,
on this, Marvel Knights. I mean, it's kind of like wow, you have your foot in the major characters that are now we're seeing on the screens. The only thing that I wish we would get, I mean, because we've gotten the boys, this one.
right.
I want this. Why can't we get this on the screen yet?
Right, right. I've sold the property 4 times to development companies, to like Lionsgate, to Universal. We sold it, but they've never put it together. Like they've gotten close, and they almost got it. And we have it back. We actually went out not too long ago. We went to Amazon and a couple of places to pitch it again. But it's temperamental, right? It depends how the business is doing. And we were pitching when things were dead.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
I think one day, I think lately I've been looking at Cameron Diaz and saying she would be great. I also like that Aubrey, or is it Aubrey Plaza? Is that her name? Yeah, Aubrey Plaza. Like, there's people I like for the pro, but until you get an actor saying I want to do it, you have to get a showrunner, you got to get a director and an actor, and once you get that, then everybody jumps for a deal. Until then, Hollywood is probably the laziest place in the world. It's why they hire for directors. They hire actors and other directors' kids, you know, and it's so unbelievably lazy at times. Um, but one day we will do the pro. But I will tell you that Amanda and I are working on another book, another pro book for next
What?
year. So that's already that's already in the works. We have the first 5 or 6 pages done. It's going to be like 48 pages again. So it's going to take a while
Wow.
for us, but it'll be at the end of next year.
Dude, that's awesome. So getting
Yeah.
back to Spawn, Gunslinger. So what do fans are expecting, in the first couple issues that without giving spoilers, of course you're telling us it's going back in the past.
It
And I
does.
mean you're notorious for Jonah Hex and being World War and back in the war, Civil War era. I I want to see what kind of world you're gonna give us because the world you gave us in Jonah Hex was phenomenal. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, you have a huge playground to play with.
Well,
So
with Todd, so so the character, we issue one actually starts. It's a retelling of the first appearance of the gunslinger in Todd's book, right?
okay.
Except we expanded the story, so there's a little more backstory, there's a little more forward story, and we get in tighter on the details of it. And the first bunch of issues are pretty much us in his shoes saying, what the hell is going on with me? Why am I turning into this guy? Why is this going on? So we answer a lot of the whys because I figure some people might have never read the book, and if they're picking it
Okay.
up for the first time, I don't want them to be completely lost. They will be a little bit, lost in the fact of why it's happening, but everything gets explained over time. And as Todd told me, he says there's no reason to tell everything in the first issue. Just have some fun with it. But it's the reason why when I wrote the first issue, I realized I can't do that story in 20 pages or 22 pages. I said I can't possibly tell it in that. And Todd just said, "Well, what do you need?" And I said, "I need another 16 pages." And he's like, "You got it. Go crazy." So I mean, that's the way. That's the kind of cool guy I'm dealing with, right?
Wow.
Anyway, so the first issue tells how he started, and we get a tease on the world that he's living in because Todd and I talked about it. This series is very grounded, meaning it reads like a real world Western, except for
Nice.
the supernatural, Spawn stuff that starts happening in the book. But I'm really excited for everybody to get it and hear their opinions, whether they're good or bad. They're all helpful. Uh, yeah. So,
Well, it seems like westerns are coming back. I mean, you got Yellowstone and stuff like that. So that that love for kind of old school, stuff's coming back. So I'm
yeah.
guarantee you that's going to be very interesting for people to read, pick up and read as well.
Well, I
Um,
think I think the westerns have never left. It's just that we get hit with like a genre bat once in a while, right? Like we
yeah,
superhero big for 4 years, and then the next horror is big for a year, and then westerns a bit. It kind of
yeah,
comes goes around with every different generation, and westerns you have to be careful because if you're doing too much history, people don't want to read it. You know,
it,
they, they
yeah,
they do like the I call it the Western flex, which is like they understand deserts and cowboys and Indians and stuff like that. So we do have a little bit of that in there, but I tried to ground it to the world right after the Civil War, so we can kind of see how the railroads are expanding, how people going west, how the Indians are dealing with the people going west, and there's a little bit of that going on around his story, around Gunslinger's story. Um, but he's trying to navigate his life too because he has a missing family member. He's dealing with the fact that he's pursuing some people, and also people are pursuing him. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm on issue 10 and having a blast with it. And yeah, I'm just hoping on the 18th people pick it up.
nice. And then basically we're gonna get, like you mentioned, where he's learning his abilities as he's going as well, right?
Yeah, Todd and I had a phone call last week. We were laughing because we were talking about the gunslinger's big tall hat, you
Yeah.
know, and uh, and I said, so what is that hat like exactly? And we started breaking down the hat. Um, but also about how the character can kind of take it off, but you know what is about it? Like Todd has all these backstories about everything he's wearing. So I
Wow.
kind of have to, every once in a while I get on the phone with him and shake him down for some information, and he's got a story for everything, man. It's like that. It's like that guy's got like a universe in his head. I don't know how he contains it all with everything he does. I mean, the toys, the other comics, his staff. I don't know. I really don't know how he does it, man. I'm always mystified by him. I'm impressed, and I'm also exhausted when I talk to him.
Yeah, no, I kind of wonder how he does it too, because I mean he has his foot in everything,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and it's just cool. And he knows what he's doing, and I think a combination of it is his passion as well. And coming back to now your story that we're going to get into, this Kickstarter that you have that you're working on, and it kicks off. I know it's been kicked off, and so you've got a team of creators that are working on this comic. You've got awesome art covers from Tucci to Chad to, I mean, the list is crazy. Um,
yeah. Well, it's so this is a combination. So I met Billy Tucci and I met Brian Polito in the early '90s. We were all putting out our own comics back then. Joe Quesada and I were doing Ash and Painkiller Jane. Brian was doing Lady Death. Billy was doing She. And we would see each other at the cons, and eventually we started hanging out with each other, and it was just like we've known each other for almost 30 years, and we were at a con like a year and a half ago, and we're like, why aren't we doing a book together? Like, why don't we do something together, the four of us, me and Amanda, Brian, and Billy. And so we started bouncing around a bunch of ideas, and we all realized we all haven't really done a sci-fi drama, like an epic sci-fi drama. And you know, Man and I had a couple of ideas for a character named Dorian and Rondo. That's a little cat like guy is Rondo, and Billy had a thing for this character Rianne, which I made fun of him because like Duran Duran, and and then we had the bad guys Calissa Gore, and Gargo was the character that Brian made, and you can see them all floating around, and that's the Deadly Trio plus one over there, the little guy. Um, and Calissa Gore's that's actually her spaceship, that giant skull. It's pretty cool.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and it's a sci-fi book. It's like 26 pages. It's it's a collaboration. We have we all worked on it. Each team designed a character, and then the book was drawn by Adriana Milo and Giuliano Petratelli, nice Italian name. He did the coloring, and we had Marshall Dillon did the lettering on it. But it's a book that we kind of worked on for a year. We kind of bounced it back and forth. Adriana kept handing in pages, and of course, too many cooks. We kind of the poor girl. She really did a great job with all of us down her throat all the time. But it was just like it was really she really stepped up and really kicked ass on this book. It's beautiful. Yeah, you can see the art right there. It's just
Yeah,
beautiful
I know
stuff.
it's gorgeous
Uh,
stuff. I mean,
yeah, and Brian is handling the Kickstarter, right? So Brian, um, with his company has a ton of experience with it, and we made it reasonable. If you want to buy the digital, it's $5 on Kickstarter. It's only $5. And if you want to buy the actual book, the regular edition, it's $20. And you can see those are the Kickstarter levels. Those are the add-ons. So we hit every time we hit these stretch goals, people get another thing. So it's a collector's card. And those are a lot of Adriana's drawings right there.
wow.
Um, so we already hit the three, and we're going to hit a fourth stretch goal soon. And so everybody, even if you ordered a regular book at $20, you're going to not only get all the stretch goals by the time we're done, but the shipping is free. We're paying for the shipping on it. We want to make sure we get the book to as many people as we want. And then we have separate editions. You see, it's $5 more, like the Billy Tucci edition. There's an
Yeah.
Amanda one. Uh, there's a Chad Harden one that kicks ass. There's a Ben Caldwell. There's so many great artists on. There's Amanda's. Yeah. So because we also at the same time with the Kickstarter want to make sure we're hitting the collectible people. People like to collect things, or
Oh
they
yeah.
cover. They love the covers. And yeah, I recommend everybody look at the campaign. But realistically, it's one of the cheapest entries for any Kickstarter I've ever seen. Like I said, $5 digital, $20 for the book, and you get all the stretch goals included
Yeah.
with it. You know, so we're really excited about it. It tomorrow would be 1 week we're up, so we still
Oh,
have
dang.
we still have a little more than 3 weeks left on for people to back it. We're hoping that we're hoping that during the holidays people get really bored and want to spend some money they got, or at least Thanksgiving they're really just filled with turkey and want to sit there and start buying. But there's also in the Kickstarter there's foil covers, there's metallic covers, there's card sets. There's something for everyone in it. But like I say, the entry is cheap. Like we tried to make this
Yeah.
as reasonable as we can by keeping the shipping free in the USA. And because at the end of the day, we really just want everybody to get it. So we're excited about that.
Nice. And I think you have a live stream tomorrow as well, or is it tonight that they're going to be
Um,
doing as well?
I think there's one. The one got canceled tonight.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
But I have a couple, and we have a bunch lined up. I think every week we're gonna go and try to do something. It's hard to get print press on
Oh,
Kickstarter because they don't want to cover it so much because there's a new Batman out or there's a new Superman out. They want to go grab that stuff. So we have to kind of do our own press out there. And actually, the fans are our best publicity. The fans go out and retweet the link to the campaign. They're our secret weapon. The comic fans are our secret weapon. Brian's done over 40 Kickstarters. I've done over 20. We've never missed shipping. We've never missed a deadline. Everyone's got their stuff. Nobody can talk any crap about us online because we deliver each and every time. We're very proud of our delivery and able to bring it to people. So we do get the people once in a while, oh, I backed the Kickstarter, I never got it. I'm like, okay, but that's like saying you don't like one doctor, so you're never going to go back to the doctors again. This, we will make sure everybody gets everything, and it looks, and like I said, it looks amazing. It is a passion project. It is a bunch of creators wanting to show how much fun and how cool we can do something, and that's that, man.
so how many issues are you going to have on this one?
So we base it on the Kickstarters. We paid everybody in advance because we don't want any creators sitting there waiting.
Okay, okay.
So we definitely going to do another one because this is at a good number, and we're going to do as many as the team wants to do. I mean, I definitely have like 3 or 4 right in my brain where I know where the story is because Amanda and I dropped the outline for the big story, the bigger story, and then we
Okay,
pulled
yeah.
the second out. So we definitely have it in line. But this one delivers. This issue sets up who each character is, where they're from, what they're doing, and what the bad guys are up to. So it really lays out everything with a lot of action too in it.
Yeah, I was going to
And
say.
because I feel like we only have one chance to get somebody hooked, so we have to make sure we deliver everything.
Nice. No, it does. I mean, if you look at this, I mean, the artwork in general, I mean, it's you got a little mixture of, like you said, the details and the characters, the
Yeah.
spaceships, the fight scenes. I mean,
Oh,
it's
it's
beautiful.
it's colorful.
Yeah.
It's colorful. I mean, Adriana really just killed it, man, and she's on for the second one if when we do a second one. We just, like I said, I everything we do is kind of a pushback to mainstream in a weird way. We feel like the book should be more special. I feel like everyone should slow down. I wish they would make comics quarterly. I wish they would make them 48 pages and make them quarterly. Like I feel like a lot of times they just put out stuff just to fill the rack and make some money. And at the end of the day, the fans, we feel that. We know when it's like like it's just a throwaway.
Yeah.
Um, and then you see them when they invest, like the new line at DC, like the new Batman. You see they treat it special. But my thing is, every book should be treated special, not just the special, not just the ones they're spending more money on. Every book has to be killer. You can lose people on every book.
Oh yeah,
You can, you know.
but dude, even the covers. I mean, okay, mind you, yes, we do get them for reading, but then we also buy them just because of covers. I mean, the Deadpool that Amanda just did, that's just dropping pretty soon.
Yeah,
The whole Doomsday piece. That is anything Amanda does, I pretty
Uh,
much pick up. I have my favorite artist. I mean, it's, of course you can tell my back. I'm a Harley Quinn nut. I
yeah.
mean,
Oh yeah.
this is just my office. So I have
Yeah, man.
the Alex Ross
I
piece
see that. I see
there.
the Alex Ross and the you got the toys up there, and yeah, man.
Yeah. So
And you
I
got
mean, I'm a
Transformers.
Harley. Yeah, I have so that's the reason why I got the Retro Ray name. I have my
Right.
love goes so far back from like TVs, cartoons,
Yeah.
and I love so much stuff. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan myself, so I mean, I got to meet him, got my Funko Pop signed.
I,
You
I,
worked
I
with
met that guy.
Kevin.
I met that guy a couple of
Yeah.
times.
I mean, dude, you were on the set of Dogma. I mean, how
We
cool
were on
was
a se-
that?
we were on a set of Chasing Amy and Dogma and a couple of things. You know, Dogma was interesting because we were coming back from a show. I don't know where we were, but Kevin was filming either in South Jersey or Philly. I can't remember. And we got on the set, and I met right away. I met Chris Rock, who was complaining he was hungry and wanted some Wendy's chicken sandwich. And then and we saw Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who met before because they're always on Kevin's movies. So those guys,
Yeah.
like when they're shooting the movies, those guys play basketball until their scene comes up, and then they come over and they do their scene.
Wow.
So we saw Kevin and and the boys. We call them the boys, but it was Matt and Ben. And I took a picture with Amanda with Salma Hayek because Salma Hayek was there. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, it was kind of fun. Actually, Kevin said if we wanted to stay and be in the movie, we'd have to stay another day or two, and he would make us like a zombie or something and kill us. And I was like, nah, I gotta get home. I gotta get home to work. He had like a whole tent of extras. I'm like, use those guys. You know, they're dying to get in your movie. You know, but Kevin's been super generous. I mean, we when we met him, we helped him out. We did some artwork for Mallrats years ago. That's how I met him. And
Wow.
we did a piece of artwork for that movie called White Hating Coon thing. It's like crazy thing for that movie. Joe and I did. And then when Chasing Amy was being shot, it was a lot. He had it opened in a comic convention, and he
Yeah.
asked if we could bring the event comics booth, and then if we can do it. And actually, when he first shot that movie, Joe and I were the opening scene, and thank God they cut it out. But we were the opening scene in that movie, and so we stayed there for like I think it was 2 days where he shot that whole stuff, all that stuff up. And then when we did Marvel Knights, we asked him to return the favor and say, "Can you write Daredevil?" So that was sort of like
Wow.
him returning the favor and saying, "Okay, I'll do Daredevil for you guys." Because none of us got rich off helping each other, but we liked helping Kevin. He was a great guy. Kevin loved Harley Quinn. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
He is. I remember going in his kitchen. He had all the Bruce Timm animation cells of Harley, all in the kitchen. And then of
Wow.
course, he has a daughter that named Harley. Of course, and named Harley. uh,
Wow.
but a great guy, super generous, and he really helped change the look of comics and the fact that people stopped looking at comics as kid stuff and started looking at it as adult material.
Yeah.
When Kevin started showing up on like late night TV shows and stuff like that, talking about Daredevil, we were like, okay, something's changing in the world, like, and that's what Marvel Knights was about. It was about us saying these are comics for adults. Um, they're grounded. They look cool. They're edgy, and you must buy every one of them. That's why we branded them on the top. Look at the box, has the black and white, the Daredevil head. We
Yeah.
branded we branded our line because we wanted everybody to buy every book we did, and it worked out pretty good, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. I mean, and then I also heard that you got Ben Affleck to do a Deadpool, what was it, intro or
No,
uh
he wrote the Daredevil intro.
yeah.
Uh, the funny story was at the time when Marvel was in Chapter 11. That's when we were doing all this stuff. At the time, we got approached to do a film deal. Kevin writing the screenplay, Robert Rodriguez directing it, and
What?
and Matt Damon was going to play Daredevil, and
No
and
way.
Marvel turned it down, And guess what they did after they turned it down? Ben Affleck was Daredevil. Yeah, it was gonna be a Kevin and Robert film. They offered a couple of million and the whole thing, but Marvel turned it down. They had their reasons, I guess.
Wow.
And then we got the Daredevil film from a whole different crew with Ben. But we were friends with Ben, you know. So when we did the Daredevil book, we were like, "Hey, can you write the intro?" And he did it. It's a funny story. I ran into him years later. Like, why would he know me from Adam? But I was in a building in L.A. seeing somebody and walking down the hallway is Ben Affleck and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me." And he looks at me, and goes, "Comic book guy. I can't remember." And I said, "Jimmy." He goes, "Yeah, how are you, man?" Yeah. So
Wow.
I was impressed that he even knew, how many people does that guy meet, I was impressed he even remembered me, but always a good dude, you know.
Dude, Rodriguez is from my neck of the woods. He's from San
Right.
Antonio. And
Yeah.
you're telling me, I mean, I never really heard this before. So
No, this
we
is like
could have had a Rodriguez Daredevil.
we could have. It
Wow.
didn't happen, you know. I like in Hollywood, a lot of deals don't happen, right? They almost
Wow.
happen, and we hear about it all the time. This was one that would have been really interesting if it happened. Would have been definitely a different Daredevil movie.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the way the universe works. Sometimes things go the other way.
Yeah, that is true too. Um, Getting back to you started off in the industry, so people who don't know, as an inker, and then gradually worked your way up. I mean, you worked with Casada, you worked with Stan Lee, you worked with Jim Lee. I mean, you've worked in McFarlane now. I mean, you have worked with almost everybody in this industry.
Yeah.
I mean, Didio. I mean, dude, how is it? I mean, you growing up as a kid, just like me now. If
Right.
you would have told me as a kid later on, are you getting to sit down with comic book creators like you, who I grew up going to the convenience store and picking up your books and reading your books, that
Right.
the internet would give us this world that we can communicate across, you're in Florida, I'm in San Antonio. How, how is your life? I mean, not only that, you
Yeah.
marry Amanda Connor, the
That was
iconic
the
artist.
big win. Marrying Amanda was the big win for me. She got
That
suckered into marrying me. I don't know how, but I definitely made out better in this in that deal. It's funny because and I guess it's part of why I work very. But I'm always trying to. I always feel like I'm getting better at this. I'm figuring out comics and I'm getting better at it. And I always feel like the next one's going to be the big one. And it's never gone away. It's very rare that I sit back and go, "Hey, look how great I am." I don't do that, right? And then when my life gets to those surreal moments, yeah, hanging out with Kevin Smith and Margot Robbie and all that stuff, I am definitely very present when that's happening because I know there's no reason I should be here, right? Like there's no I don't know how this happened, but I'm so happy it did. I've just been very lucky. But I think also what you put out there comes back, and I've
yeah.
been I try to treat everybody great. I try to be there for everyone. I try to help my friends with work and with everything. I am a lot of people's bank book once in a while when they're having hard times and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I just think I was brought up the right way and not to dismiss people. I mean, we Amanda and I go to cons and we talk to everybody and we hang out. We go there and we sit at the table and we hang out. I mean, we're very present. We're very involved with what we do. We love what we do and we love the people that enjoy it. And at the end of the day, I'm writing for other people. I'm not writing for me. I'm trying to entertain people. I'm trying to give people 10 minutes of their whatever heartache they have. Their brain is now shifted into a comic and they're in another universe and they're not worrying about their problems. And I think it's very important to stay grounded with the stuff. And I'm convinced there's really no big celebrities in our business. I think Stan Lee is the only one that's really a bit. I mean, Kevin is too. Kevin Smith is. but I felt like Stan was the big superstar. You know, maybe Neil Gaiman and you know, but there's not that many superstars in our business. You know, to the outside world. To me, all the artists are the superstars. Like I have a list of people that I love their art, and to me, they're superstars. Um, Superstars. But you know, but I think to the rest of the world, it's comic books, Stan Lee. You know, I think that's. I think there's a percentage of people that think Jim Lee is Stan's kid. You know, uh, yeah, I don't
I
know.
agree with you. I mean, because before we started recording, you
Yeah,
mentioned that you are a hardcore fan and you actually purchase commission art from people as well. Just
I
like
do.
me, we go to cons and you like artists and you'll say, "Hey, can you do me this piece?" And that's the thing.
I never cut the line. I whenever I get a commission, I see if the person's not doing anything. I'm like, can you take on? Because Andrew Robinson was at a show, and I saw him just sitting there, and I said, "Are you doing commissions?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you have any?" He goes, "Not right this minute." And I said, "I'd like to hire you to do one." And I had a Dusty Star done by him, but I was like, "All right," I got in there, and I always pay because I don't want that. No, I'll do it for free, or no, I don't want that because I feel like I'm not going to get their best work. I'm going to get something. Here you go, Jimmy. Um, but I don't mind paying because I know how hard these guys work. So
Oh yeah.
they tell me they want $200 for a commission or $300. I'm like, yeah, man, no problem. I'm like, I get it. Took you 40 years to get to that drawing. You know, just because it took you 30 minutes doesn't mean if there's 40 years before that 30 minutes. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
um,
Big time.
so. Yeah, plus the comic people are very, very underpaid.
Yeah.
They have to hustle constantly. It is such a hustle. I mean, look, I'm writing a book for Todd. I'm hustling a Kickstarter, and I'm actually working on two other books right now. And all the companies try to do is pay you less and less. COVID was an excuse for them to cut everybody's page rate and cry poverty.
Yeah.
And the joke is that's not true, but that's why I try to do Kickstarters. I try to balance out what I make for a living because yeah, we work so hard, and Chad, right? Chad Harden, hard he works. There's no
Oh
such
yeah.
thing as a quick sketch with that boy. Every those blank covers are like masterpieces when he does them. You
Oh
know?
yeah. I mean, big
Yeah,
time. I mean, I've the cons that I've gone to where Amanda's been, if you
yeah,
don't get there early, her commission cuts off. So
yeah.
every time I've gone, her commission's already been cut off, and I'm like,
We'll
oh.
get to you, Ray. We'll get to you. We have
But
yeah,
dude, she literally, like, I kid you not, like, they keep her busy from when she arrives at the convention till she leaves, and that's a
yeah,
great thing. I mean, and the thing is, people ask, like, of course, us as art fans, and that's what the biggest thing. That's why working with Countdown and I'm here is because without the artists and the writers like you guys, there's Marvel, DC, Image, but you know what? Without you guys that are the ones who put the stories together and draw, we wouldn't have the world, we wouldn't have the IP that we have on the screen right now because you
yeah,
guys brought that stuff to life. You made these characters for people to fall in love with. And that's
yeah.
why I want people to meet these artists because I've gotten to interview artists from Mexico, from Italy, and at that time frame back in the day, we didn't have that access. So now
Oh,
I
no, it used
want
to
to,
be Wizard Magazine. That was it, right? Wizard
yes,
Magazine.
yeah, and now we can bring attention to the people who are behind the scenes for people who don't know about you guys. And that to me is why I'm doing this for Countdown because I want people to know the people behind the books.
Well,
And not a
I
lot of
appreciate
people.
guys like you, Ray, because
Oh,
I know because of your retro name. I know you've been doing this for a while. Um, and and look, I mean, I'm a fanboy too. You'll have a certain guest. I'll watch it because I'm like, oh, I've only talked to that guy for 3 minutes at a con, but I've loved his work for 30 years.
yeah.
I want some more time with them. I want to. I remember every time we lose a creator, like
Oh, dude.
like a Bernie Wrightson or a Steve Dillon, or it just goes on and on. There's listed. We're talking about Greg Hildebrandt. Recently.
Yeah.
when we lose these people, it's we're not getting that back. We're not getting that time back. And they're brilliant bastards. They're wonderful storytellers, and they're so interesting. They have stories that we'll never hear, again, right? I mean, so it's important for like even for what you're doing. It's important to document a lot of these people because
Yes.
I think back. And you maybe you could back me up on this. I look on the internet. I said, I want to watch some videos of Frank Frazetta talking about his work, and I realized there's like three. There's like there's a clip of him saying a sentence or two, or Jack Kirby. Like I wish I could watch an hour with Jack Kirby to hear him talk about stuff, or Joe Kubert, or Gil
Yes.
Kane, or you know. Look, even people that are around, Barry Smith. I want to hear Barry Smith talk about Machine Man, and I want to hear Conan. I want to hear what Conan meant to him, or Mike Kaluta. I want to hear him talk about the Shadow, you know. And we don't have it. Like it's not documented. I think remember comics and jazz are two art forms that originated here, and I
Yeah.
really think we should start celebrating the art form more.
No, we
I
do.
think
We
there
should.
should
We
I think
do.
there should be museums. I think Washington D.C. Smithsonian should have one of a comic book and illustration and jazz in the same building, and call it the American Art Form Building. Instead of just
Yeah.
throwing a Batmobile in there. You know what I mean? Put some really good stuff in.
Well, no, some of the stories, like, okay, getting back to stories, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
some of the artists who want to draw, they go to art school, that have access to art school, they
Right.
go and then they don't make it. So they get discouraged, but they have that passion still. So they continue to draw until they
Right.
catch somebody's eye, or they publish their own comic to get that attention,
Yeah.
hopefully get, you know?
It's America, man. That's the beauty of America. Make your own
Yeah.
comic. Nobody's stopping you from making your own comic.
No.
As a matter of fact, crowdfunding is the way to get your own book out there. If you got a big family with a bunch of cousins, they'll back your stuff.
Yeah.
You just have to you kind of it's a slow crawl. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, man. And man, 40 years probably. And it's a constant push. You're constantly trying to do the next thing, and nobody in comics retires. By the way, hardly anybody in comics retires.
Yeah.
Joe Kubert was drawing on his hospital bed. You know, these guys,
Yes.
Will Eisner
Kubert.
drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, Will Eisner drew till the day he died. There's no retiring in this business because we don't make the money that one star can star in one something comic I wrote. Margot Robbie probably made more than Harley on Harley than I'll make in my whole life writing. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like it's a little abstract. And the world is a little backwards because I think we should be celebrating the talent we have more.
Yes. I agree.
I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about like I want the guys that are 10 years and 20 years older than me should we should be celebrating them while they're here,
Yes.
in able to sit with us and talk about things. Um, and
I
it's a
agree with
shame.
you.
It's a shame it isn't, but I'm glad guys like you are doing what you're doing because it is documented and we do get it on YouTube. Thank God.
Yes.
So
So getting back to you. So what was your book that basically sealed the deal that gave us Jimmy Palmiotti? What was the book that you went and it sold you to, okay, this is what I want to do?
it was a slow crawl, right? Because I grew up in the I was born in the '60s, so I grew up in the '60s and '70s, right?
Hmm.
So we didn't have the cable TV, and we didn't have computers, and we didn't have cell phones. And what we
Yeah.
had is I lived in Brooklyn. We had a stoop, and I had a stack of comics that I would read, that I would share with my friends. And there was Archies and Supermans and horror, and there was Jonah Hexes, and there was all. And I read every single comic. I read the Hulk. I read Fantastic Four. I read I read Conan. I read all of them. I loved all of them. I wasn't just a superhero guy. I was like, I like all the genre stuff too. Um, and it was funny because there was a bookstore near me that had tons and tons of comics, and they were 10 for $1. And they were mostly from the late '60s, early '70s, which has had a lot of horror and a lot of crazy stuff. And once in a while, he'd have a sale like 12 for $1. But I would go there. I'd shovel snow in the winter, and I'd get a couple of dollars, and I'd go in there and I'd buy 50 comics, and
Wow.
they would be read by everyone in my house and all my neighbors. We would pass them around. I remember Superman. We'd sit there and reading Superman, and it wasn't like now where you can get this issue and that issue. All these comics, pretty much the stories ended in that issue. You read them and that was it. So it was a great time to be alive because honestly, we didn't have a comic shop where you could pick up the next issue. It was random at the newsstand. It's like you went there, and if there was one there, you got it. Um, so I think that was part of the reasoning why they didn't do the continuing thing, and it actually forced the creators back then to be more creative with their storytelling and also be able to write a big full story in one issue and
Yeah.
not blow it. They didn't have 8 pages of with one word in it. They literally had a caption, the word balloons, and then we saw what the characters were doing. And when you look back on those, Ray, you say, how did they get so much stuff in that one book? Remember those Claremont X-Men's with John Byrne?
Oh
So
yeah.
much writing in it, but the art, it never felt claustrophobic. It always felt like I wanted to read all that. I was no rush to finish the book. I'm like, I'm taking my sweet ass time. I want to read this slowly.
Yep.
So it was a different time. And I grew up. So my things probably were Archie and Superman, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Daredevil,
Wow.
um, Jonah Hex, Swamp Thing, Master of Kung Fu by Galassi and Doug Bench, uh, Daughters of the Dragon at Marvel, and The Shadow, and of course Conan. Conan was like a big one because I got the Conan magazine, and then I think in '76, I think I picked up the first Heavy Metal, and my head went boom. Because all of a sudden I'm learning who Mobius is and Manara and Bial, and all of a sudden there was another world of art I'd never seen. Hugo Pratt, and I was like, oh my god, like where did these guys come from? And it was an exciting time. And again, I didn't have the distraction of a computer, a phone, cable TV. Had none of that. None of that.
No.
Cartoons were on Saturday morning. That was it, man. Otherwise
Yeah.
TV was some parents most of the time. Except for like Gilligan's Island or something like that. Um,
That's true too.
so we had more time to read, and that's when comics that were not popular were selling hundreds of thousands of copies. There were newsstands. They sold a lot more copies back then than they do now. So that's kind of crazy to think about that as well. I mean, even during World War II, comics were selling 1 million copies
Yeah.
each. You know,
That's crazy.
it's because people were just reading. There was just, and then they used the comics for insulation on the houses. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, it was basically pretty much, and that's the thing. And getting back to we were talking about that, it's people turned to comics back then because that took them away for what was going on around them at the time.
Right.
And I feel, I don't know, to me, it still does to me, and also TV shows as well.
Yeah.
It makes you forget about what's going on around you currently, and it takes you into a world like, man, this is cool. If depending on the story, sometimes you wish there were characters like that in the real world when
Oh,
you
yeah.
read this stuff.
You know how you talk about no matter how you voted in politics, doesn't matter which way you voted. There was politics burnout. After the election, nobody I know is watching the news anymore. They just don't.
Yeah,
They're like, you know what? All that stuff was so tense. They played us. They manipulated us. Now, guess what? We're not going to watch you guys for a while. And
yeah,
and I think that's happening. Everybody I talk to says, yeah, I don't even watch the news anymore. I read the news maybe once in a while, or they watch local news. What's going on in my neighborhood type of stuff. Um, and that's what happens. That's what happens. Too much tension. We were all politically raging constantly, and the news stations were not news stations; they were entertainment stations. So they kept pulling us in with crazy headlines to the point where our brains were exploding and nothing else mattered. And when the election was over, everybody's like, "Oh, I'm done with this. I need Thanksgiving.
yeah.
I need some comics back. I need COVID, of course, was like the revival of comics, right? COVID,
Oh,
everybody
big
started
time.
buying everything. I mean, even me, I've always collected comic book art, and during COVID, I had people buying art from my site. I have a site, Paper Films, and people buying art like crazy. And I was like, "What's going on?" And I realized, oh, because people are figuring out what's important to them.
Yeah, no,
And
it
comics
is. I
are
mean,
very important.
art. Yeah,
Yeah,
comics, art, and the thing is, the art that you get. I mean, and this is kind of my theory on the where you get back to the art.
yeah,
You have some artists who have gone full digital,
yes,
and you have some who are doing 50-50. They're doing digital and the actual sketches and stuff like that.
yeah,
I prefer as a fan, don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, back in the day they would have to mail their 11 by 17s off and come back. Yes, it's helped, but we still as fans, comic book fans, we want that original art page. And we have digital, you can't get that in from your, especially fans who love your art. They're gonna pay
no,
for it if it's there.
no.
But
I mean,
yeah, like you said,
I miss the pages with the hand lettering on it. I love to read
yes.
the original art. It's really funny because it just so happened today. I did a book. It's right behind me, so I can grab it. Man and I did this like a year ago, year and a half ago. It was a book about
Oh
blonde,
yeah.
right? And the artist was an artist named Montos. That was his name. He goes under one word, right? Montos. Um, and he did this beautiful job on the book. I mean, the artwork is just gorgeous. And I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I think I want to get a page of this, from him. And I wrote him, and he said to me, dude, it's all digital. There is no art. And I was just like, uh, I'm like, you know, and it breaks my heart to see that. And I have conversations with my artists once in a while, and I said, I know you want to do digital, but do me a favor, do the cover and do the splash pages, pen and ink, man. Just go in there
Oh
and draw,
wow.
okay? Because 10 years from now, you're not going to be able to sell anything, and a lot of the guys right now are surviving on the artwork they did when they were younger, going back and selling it. I have stuff that Amanda did. Amanda does all this stuff. 90% of her work is on paper.
Wow.
And she likes the letter. So a lot of times she has the lettering or the logo. She likes the letter. She's a very good letterer. Um, but it's amazing how much art is not available because guys are doing digital to save money to make it quicker. But the reality is, it's not. I don't think it's saving the money. I think and I don't. And I'm like you. I don't want a pencil page and an ink page. I want the ink, pencil and inks on one page. Um, I'm probably old school, Ray. So I think you're gonna have to put Retro Jimmy in front of me because I want it all on one page. I like to see the penciler and inker. I like to see what they do.
I
Um,
mean, it's beautiful because I mean, sometimes even just looking at because you see and this is where I'm going to get off raw mode.
yeah, that's all right. I'm gonna show you. I have some art right here. Like this is a. Yep, that is
Oh, that's original.
yeah.
Oh
It's a
man,
watercolor by Bill. Bill did Sikevich, right?
I've been wanting. I tried getting him on the show because the pieces
Yeah,
when someone dies, he'll do a piece and draw
every
it.
time, every time.
Yes, and I wanted to get him on the podcast because I want to talk to him like what inspires him to do that. I mean, he doesn't have to, and he
I think
does it
I
every
think
time.
I'm not going to answer for him, but I have a theory on it. I think that's how he processes their death
Wow.
by drawing, put him in front of them, and drawing them. I think that's the way Bill processes that person has left us in a way, and it's a beautiful tribute,
No, it is.
and it's a cool thing. I tell him all the time, can you give us a whole book? Can we have a whole book of all
Dude,
your what?
yes, that.
Um, I mean, so we'll talk about history. Manda used to be his assistant when she started out. She
Dude, are
was
you
she was
serious?
Yeah, yeah, she was Bill's assistant. And Bill met her when she was Halloweening as Elektra. She did the Halloween costume. And if you look at the Elektra Assassin, especially the last issue, if you look at that again, you see Amanda in all those pages, man. You know,
Dude, I didn't know
she
that.
posed, yeah, she posed for a lot of the book there. Yeah,
Wow. See, like
no,
that is priceless. Like, don't get me wrong. I know my Alec, that piece I have back there is not original of Alec. It's a print, but
that's all right.
that's my pride and joy of
Yeah,
art. I have some Amanda's prints and
yeah,
that I have. So I already run out of wall space because I don't have enough places to
No,
put all my
look at my walls. Look at my walls are like chaos.
because it's beautiful. I mean, it's like, you walk into my house. I'm a 40-year-old man, and you walk into my house. It looks like a teenager lives here because I have all these artworks hanging up on the wall.
Are
And
you married, Ray? Are you married?
yes, I'm married.
Okay, so she puts up with it, right?
Yes, and no, but see, and that's the thing. We have to share the wall. She has
Right.
one half of her wall what she loves, and then I have mine over here. So we're like, okay, you got that side, I got that side, and
Right.
that's when you find a woman who's like that, that's a keeper because
Oh no, I mean, Amanda, of course, right? Amanda, look, we have it's funny because our walls don't have a ton of comic art. They have more like illustration art
yeah.
because we get gifts from artists, so of course we
Oh
want to put them on
wow,
the walls. But I don't think there's any comic book pages on the walls. Like I don't have comic. I have some Dave Johnson paintings. I have this painting, but
wow,
comic book black and white pages, I used to have them on. I have them in my studio in front of me. I'm looking at a Dave Johnson and a Jack Davis that you
wow.
can't see. Um, but I've been selling them. On paper films. I sell a lot of the older pages I have, and we put out some pretty cheap ones because we want to move them. We want to make sure people are getting them, and
Dude,
we just sold a bunch of Amanda pages, like 150 and $200, and you
are
know.
you
Uh,
serious?
yeah, yeah, because we do that once in a while. I mean, we have it on the paper film site. There are very expensive pieces too, but we also mix it up with some older stuff.
Nice.
Because we want to make sure people get some art. I think once you start buying original art, it's like an addiction. And so we're like the junkie. We're like the guys giving out the free sample in the nightclub.
Yeah. So the Kickstarter, going back to your Kickstarter,
Yeah,
I'm gonna put this up so people can go and
yeah.
go fund the Kickstarter. Um, so some of that stuff, is that all digital as well, or is that a mixture of both? Is it gonna be
No,
available
no,
where
it's
people
that's a good question. I'm not sure how Adriana did it. I got to be honest with you. Um, I just assume it's all pencil and ink, but I may be completely incorrect because we're dealing with a new wave of artists that don't even do work on paper.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, so I don't know. I know Amanda's covers, and I know Chad's, and I think Chad might have done it on paper. Once in a while you don't know with Chad. Like
No, he's been
he
doing I've been catching some of his stuff that he's been doing live stream where
yeah.
he's doing a little bit of both. He's doing the digital and he's doing the actual sketches as well. So
Yeah, we worked on a book, The Hunters, together, and I know he did some of it digital and some of it, and and he's another generation, where he's on the border of that, being completely digital. But there's people I work with that are completely digital, and there is no originals. Um, and I
yeah.
think I think it's a mistake, to be honest with you. I always tell them, look, if you get a cover, don't do it digitally. Go with that pen and ink. Get that
Yeah,
ink out.
covers at least do those covers because
Yeah.
covers are always because you can reprint it and make prints like what I bought.
Yeah. I mean,
And
people want covers, people want
yeah,
covers all the time. There's no such thing as, hey, I'm stuck with this cover art. There's always somebody that wants that. So, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then getting back to you were mentioning, so when you got into the industry, you had to have somebody that you looked up to, Stan Lee, some of those main Neil Adams.
Yeah.
Who was it when who was the first person that you actually got to meet that you actually looked up to and actually got to work with them at that point? How was it? What was
Work
your
with them.
experience?
I met a lot of people. I met guys like George Perez. I met Bernie Wrightson. When I started, Jim Stranko, Jack Kirby. I met.
Wow.
I met them, John Buscema, but I wasn't working with them, right?
Oh,
Um, I will say, like, I think one of my highlights, even though it wasn't a big book, but one of my highlights was we had Bernie Wrightson do the Marvel Knights Punisher,
oh,
and I got to ink Bernie, and Bernie was one of the first guys I met. I met him. It was 1978,
wow.
and this is going way back before you were born, right? And it was 1978, and in Manhattan they had this thing. It was a comic art gallery. It was a tiny little office in a third floor of a building, right? And they had a Bernie Wrightson exhibit of his originals, and they were for sale, and they were very expensive. They were like $400 and $800, and back then, that was like $1 million to us, right?
Yeah.
And I went one night, and it ended, and I think Bernie was cleaning up his art supplies on the table, and I sat next to him, and I said, "Hey, can I ask you a couple of questions?" And I said, "What kind of brush do you use? What kind of pen do you use?" And he wrote everything down, and he explained it to me how to use it. And he showed me you roll the brush when you get a point on it. He showed me some stuff, and then I met him like 20 years later, 25 years later, and we were going to work together. And I sat with him, and I said, "You're not going to remember me, but," I said, "you did this show." And he goes, "No, no, I remember you sat there and you picked my brain for an hour." And I'm like, "I did."
Dude.
I said, I wanted to know what brush you use. He goes, "No, no, I remember. I remember. I wrote down everything for you." And I'm like, "Holy wow." He remembered that. And then we were like friends ever since, up until he passed away. We used to see Bernie all the time and hang out and talk about stuff. But he was definitely somebody that, I was like, wow. I'm like, this guy's the one of the best artists out there, and he's talking to me like he's like a regular guy. Um, and that's when I knew it was
Wow.
something special, because anywhere else, people, they won't give you the time of day, but comic book people were like really nice. And Walt Simonson would sit with me and talk for an hour. And I remember seeing Stan like the second or third time I met Stan. We sat down and we talked for a while. And
Wow.
I was up at Marvel, and he was commenting how, when I was inking, I was getting good reviews from everybody. Like, I get my work in on time and everything. And I was just like pinching myself. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting with Stan Lee. Like, he's just talking to me. Like, and I worked for him.
Wow.
Like, like I am the coolest person on earth. You know, and and then over the years, I would host his panels at shows and stuff like that, and got to know him better.
Wow,
Um,
dude.
but I
That's
don't
awesome.
think the excitement ever goes away. Like, I still talk to certain pros, and I still get quiet around them. I know you can't imagine that, but I get quiet around them, and I get humbled really quickly. And I have friends of mine, close friends, that are so talented. I don't even know what to say. I just everything they show me, I'm like, it looks great. What am I gonna tell you? It looks great.
No, I'm
Um,
the same way with you. So, literally, guys, if you didn't know, I literally reached out to Jimmy on Twitter and was like, "Hey, man, I'm doing this podcast. I want to try to get on the podcast as a guest." And I sent him, of course, I sent him the picture that we took in San Diego, where it was you, Amanda, me, and Chad. And
yeah,
I'm like, "Hey, we got to." And I don't know if that helped, but
yeah. It
he
always
actually,
well, reference always helps, right? Reference always helps.
but Jimmy, thank you for taking the time. You're a busy man. You're working on your Kickstarter. You work on these books, and I'm looking forward to the Spawn. I can't wait to read it. Getting into the whole Western, but
Yeah,
you taking the time to talk to me for an hour. Um, I really appreciate it. You're telling me stuff I didn't know. Like right now, I'm like flipping out in my head when you just told me that we could have had a Rodriguez Daredevil, but that's
yeah.
another story in itself. But
Yes,
but you see, like you said, the documentary is not there. There's no, the
right.
stories that you're telling. We need to document this stuff for people to know.
I mean,
You
how
know,
cool would it be if every year all that money that San Diego makes, they hire a documentary group, and they pick out whoever won that award at the Eisner Award for career
oh,
thing, and they do like a 45-minute documentary on those people, right, for the next year, so
dude,
they can show it. It would be the greatest thing ever. We would have documentaries on, let's say, even who's there now, Sergio Aragonés, right?
yeah,
Sergio's alive. Let's get a documentary about his life, his art,
yeah,
and him talking. I mean, I'll watch it. I don't care if it's an hour and a half. I don't care. But my thing is, nobody's doing it. It's very rare. It's very rare. I mean, I watched it 2 years ago in San Diego. I watched the Dave Stevens one, which was fantastic. If you've never if you've never seen it, it is a great documentary about Dave. And
wow,
when I left that theater, I was with my buddy Tom, and we both left, and I was like, man, imagine they made one of those for everybody. And he's like, oh my God. He goes, imagine watching a Jack Kirby one or a Frank Frazetta one. I'd be like, oh my God. I'd be watching it 18 times, you know. Or even a Stan Lee one, let's be honest, you know. Like there's just so much to cover in his life. And then I think of all the artists that we lost, Jack Davis and oh my God,
Yeah.
Steve Dillon and Al Williamson and it goes on and on. John Buscema, you know, there's these so
Dude,
many
Bernie
guys.
Wrightson, that's what we need. We need
Bernie,
dude, we need to
Mike Kaluta is still out there, man. Mike's up in New York. He's got to be around 80, you know.
yeah.
Get him in front of the camera. I want to hear that guy talk all day long. Uh, you know, I know we got ones with Robert Crumb and you know super famous people, but I think that has to go.